Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how you can better visualize data in numbers using conditional highlighting. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So conditional highlighting in numbers allows you to change the color or style of the text in a cell based on the value in that cell. You can use this to quickly see what's going on in your data. For instance, here's a really simple example. I've got a table here that just has some stock symbols, the price, and the change. Now what would be great is if I could see which stocks were going up and which stocks were going down. You can see the little negative sign there, but it's hard to kind of pick those out at a glance. So I'm going to set some conditional highlighting for all of the cells in column C. To select all the cells in column C, I'm going to double click on C here. And you can see how that selects all the cells but not the header or footer cells. Now I'm going to go to Format, Cell, and then I'm going to click on Conditional Highlighting. And then I'm going to add a rule. And the first rule I want to add uses the value in the cell as a number, and it's going to look for anything that is greater than, and let's put that as 0. Any positive number, and it's going to do a green fill. Then I'm going to add another rule, and I'm going to also have number for that and look for anything that's less than, and then if it's less than 0 then do a red fill and then done. And now you can see the green fill for all of the positive numbers and the red fill for all the negative numbers. It gives me a quick look at which stocks are going up and which are going down and the overall market today. If it's all green, it's all going up. If it's all red, it's all going down. I could go back in to Format, Cell, Show Highlighting Rules here and change the style. So maybe instead of a green fill, I'll just do green text. Instead of a red fill, I'll do red text. And then I get a more traditional view of stock price changes. Now how about this sheet here? This is a list of students in a class and their scores on a test. Let's say I want to see which students did really good and which students failed the test. So I'm going to select all of the cells here and let's go to Format, Cell, Conditional Highlighting and add a rule and say if the number is greater than or equal to, let's say 90, then show green. Add another rule and say if the number is less than, and let's say 70, then show red. Done, and I can see now the students that did very well in the test and the few that failed. To clear out conditional highlighting, just make sure you have all the cells selected. Go to Format, Cell, Show Highlighting Rules, and then you can use the little trash icon here to remove the different conditions. Now let's say I wanted to find the student that did the best in the test. How would I do that? Well, what I'd want to do is figure out what the highest score is and then highlight just the cell that matches that highest score. Now there's no way to do that within conditional highlighting rules itself. Instead, you first need to calculate the best score. So let's add some footer rows. I'm going to expand the bottom of this table by 3 rows. And we're going to go to Format and then Table and say that I want to have 3 rows at the bottom that are footer rows. So these are different and not part of the data. You can see if I double click on B here, it only selects the data rows. These footer rows are like the header row, they're separate. So let's do some calculations here. For instance, it would be useful to have the average score. So I'll do average and over here I will put a formula that's average and of the entire column like that, and I get the average score. But I could also do other ones, like let's find the best score. So the best score I would use instead of average the max. The maximum score here of everything in B, and that's 99. Let's also get the worst score, and that would simply be the minimum value of all the values. So the best score is 99, the worst score is 65. Now to do conditional highlighting, I want to select all these cells here, and what I would do is go to Format, Cell, Conditional Highlighting, then add a rule and say if the number is equal to, and I want to match the best score. So instead of typing a number here, I'm going to click on this little icon here to the right And that allows me to then select a cell. And I'm going to say the best. So it's equal to the best score. And I'm going to set that to be, say, green. And now you can see how it highlights the best score. And I can do the same thing, adding another rule and say if the number is equal to, I'll click there, and then I'll go and say the worst score. Then let's do red for that. Now you can see there are two students that tied for the worst score here. And this will adjust automatically. If this student's score were to be changed to a 90, then you could see that the best score is now 98, and that matches this cell now. Now let's go and remove those and then say that instead we want to find the top 3 scores. So how will we do that? Well, one way to find the top scores is you can do a rank. So I'll do a new column here with rank. And I'll do equals and I'll do rank, and then the first parameter is the score for that row, and the second parameter is all of the cells there. And you can see this person here ranked 18th. If I copy this, select all the cells in the column, paste, everybody's got a ranking. That's the number 1, that's number 2, and so on. So now I could do conditional highlighting here on the rank and say if the number is less than or equal to 3, then mark it green and I would see the top 3. But there's a better way to do this where you don't actually even need this rank column. Instead, let's change the best and worst to the top 3 and the bottom 3. And instead of using max and min, we're going to use large. And then if we look under functions here for large, we can see that it's the value set and the ranking. So the value set is all of column B. And we want to get the top 3 here. And what we get is 95. Anybody that scored 95 or above is in the top 3. Likewise, we can do small and get the data set and say the bottom 3. So anybody that's 67 or below is in the bottom 3 here. So now with these cells selected, we can do conditional highlighting. We can add a rule and say if the number is greater than or equal to, and we'll click on that little button there and then go to the top 3 like that. Check it, and then we've got the 95, 98, and 96. They're all in the top 3. They're all green. We can add another rule and say if the number is less than or equal to, click the little button there to the right and say the bottom 3. Click the green checkbox, and now we have in red the 3 that are at the bottom. And we didn't need to use this ranking column at all. We can get rid of it, in fact, and it won't affect anything. Now something I'm often asked is how can you highlight the name rather than the score? So conditional highlighting needs to act on the value in the cell. So the names here you can't really match to anything having to do with the test score. So it seems like it's impossible. But you can do it. Let's go and get rid of all the conditional highlighting rules here. Clear those out. We still have the average, top 3, and bottom 3. And let's add another column here. And let's call this in top 3. So we're going to do a formula here that's going to compare if this is greater than or equal to, and we'll go down here to the top 3 and return a value, false. So I'll copy and select all the cells and paste it in. And you can see that there are trues only for the top 3 right here. Now what we can do instead of true and false values is we can go in here and we can use the condition as part of the if statement. So if this is true, then what value should we put there? Well, let's put the student's name. And if it's false, let's put nothing, like that. So the result will be blanks if they're not in the top 3. But if I copy and paste throughout, we can see we get the name if they are in the top 3. So now we can set conditional highlighting for the student's name here. Just select all of those cells there. Go to Format Cell, Conditional Highlighting, say Add a Rule, and say if the text is, and then click this button here. Select the cell in column C, like that. And notice we don't have preserve row or preserve column. So this will change for every row. And then we go and we say we want green like that. Now you can see we get green text whenever the name matches. And the only time this name would match is when this if statement is true, because the score here is in the top 3 that's calculated there. Now let's take that idea and use that to create a heat map. The idea with a heat map is you have a variety of different colors, and there are certain shades that show your one end of the spectrum and certain shades at the other end of the spectrum. And we'll put a 1 in this. We're going to try to find the person that came in with the highest test score. So we're going to do a formula here that's equals, and we'll do if and then the rank of this score for the entire column is equal to this value here. And go in here and make sure we preserve the row. It should be automatic because it's a header row, because we don't want this to change as we paste the formula in the other cells. So if it matches this number here, it's ranked first. Then instead of putting the name of the person, let's put the actual test score there. Otherwise, we'll put blank. And the other thing we want to change is we always want to look in column B here for testing the ranking and also getting the score. So let's go into here and say let's preserve column. Let's go into here and say preserve column. Let's go into here and preserve column. So it's always going to use row B. So now we get nothing here, but if I copy and paste, you can see we get a 98 there. This is the only row where the score is actually ranked number 1. So it'll put the value of the score there. Now if we were to add more columns and say put 2, 3, 4 in there, we could select all of these cells, copy, then select all of these cells and paste. And what happens here is 96 is the only row that matches where the ranking is 2. If we paste here, then we get a match on 3. And we paste here, we get a match on 4. So we now have the first place, second place, third place, and fourth place. We can now go back to here and add a whole bunch of conditional highlighting rules. Let's add a rule and let's say if the number is equal to, and we'll click here and say this cell right there, then change to, let's say, green. And we can see now that's highlighted green. But we can customize the style and change the color fill here by clicking on the color wheel. And let's go here to the sliders, go to RGB sliders. So I'm actually going to go and say I want no red, no blue, all green. Make it very bright green for first place. Now I'm going to add a rule and say if the number is equal to, and click the little button here. Make sure I select row D this time. And then set it to a custom style and set the color fill equal to green like before. But this time I'm going to adjust the opacity a bit to dim the green, blending with the white behind it. And I'm going to turn off the bold style that's there. Then I'm going to add another rule and say if the number is equal to, and then click here and match column E, and then go here and change it to a custom style again. Take away the bold, set a color fill, and then change the color to green, but this time even dimmer, like that. So an idea here is you get a bright green, a dimmer green, a dimmer green, and it'll keep going and you can create this kind of heat map of colors. Maybe at some point switching from green to blue to red, and you could see where the best students are and the worst students are. And then you'll be creating a lot of these additional columns, but you can always go in and hide the selected columns when you're done and just be left with the test scores that are colored in depending upon how high or low the score is ranked. So that gives you an idea of how you can visualize data a little bit better in your spreadsheets using conditional highlighting. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.